the biggest thing that we are dealing with right now in reference to, transitioning from, I'm in my friend's spare bedroom and I'm getting phone calls, I'm creating tickets, I'm remoting into computers, I'm fixing problems, I'm setting up servers, etc. The biggest transition from that to today, where I've got, 13, 14 staff members, is delegation and communication. Those right there are the biggest absolutes, because I am so used to just being the guy.
Welcome to the Building to Scale podcast, where we bring real entrepreneur stories that showcase the challenges and successes in building and scaling an entrepreneurial business. Our host, Jeff Chastain, is a business transformation coach with Admentis, where he coaches business leaders and their teams with a proven set of principles and tools, helping them gain clarity in and get more of what they want from their business. Make sure to stick around until the end of the show, and we will reveal how you can become our next guest.
Hello, everybody. Jeff Chastain here again with the Building to Scale podcast, where I get the opportunity really to speak with entrepreneurial business leaders and influencers, really just hearing their stories, sharing their stories of both challenges and successes as they've gone through their entrepreneurial journey and really gotten their business to where it is today. Today's guest with me, I have Mr. Todd here with Wellteck IT, an IT managed services firm out in Midland, Texas. So first off, welcome to the show, Dylan, and thank you for taking a bit of your time out of your day here. I know IT land can be busy and chaotic at times, so hopefully we're catching you on a smooth day here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jeff.
So tell us a little bit more about Wellteck, about how that kind of came about.
Sure. So I had a few prior managed services jobs, and a buddy of mine came to me and told me that he thought I was too good at what I did, and he thought, man, this guy really he needs to start his own business. He had his own business at that time, and he saw what I guess was the entrepreneurial spirit that he thought that I should kind of engage in. And so he asked me what I needed, and I told him, well, what does anybody need? Money.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of confidence in me, and he basically gave me what would be about 3 months worth of salary. And I came up with some other money in a few different ways, and basically bought some used equipment on eBay, and officed out of his extra bedroom for gosh, what would that be? Probably 3 or 4 months. And, I thought in the back of my mind, if I can't make this work in 90 days, I need to not do this. And so that was the approach that I took. It was kind of the burn the ships approach. So I basically started, and we were able to actually move from that extra bedroom at his house, because I knew if I officed at my house, it would not work, as most people probably are. But I moved from my office, or from his spare bedroom, to a small rented office that we split the rent on, and just sort of slowly grew. And I was actually able to pay him back, I think, within 6 months or so.
Impressive. Okay.
Yeah. So we started pretty well.
It's like, yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. So just ran through that year. That was 2014. And gosh, what was it? The end of 2014 was when the oil dropped out pretty severely. And
Yep.
So I was kind of worried about that, for sure. And, I'm a Christian. And so that's something that I, trust the Lord in. And he's brought us to, now we're hitting year 7 here, and we're going strong.
So what kind of client base have you got out there? Are you primarily facing oil companies, or working with oil companies, or what kind of companies are you targeting? Anything specific, or are you just general IT for anybody business? Sure.
So we've never really found that for us to be specific to any particular vertical was better than not to be. So in that way, we're not specific really. I think we do for the customers that we have pretty good processes in place. And so, I think if we can take those processes for those and, kind of expound upon them in their vertical, I think that maybe we could align ourselves to a particular vertical that way.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And it's, like I said early on when we were talking, I've got background in technology and everything, and it's one of those almost kind of foundational layers I look at that, okay, there's there's a layer there for every business that you need the same backup services, you need the same patch management services, things like that are really applicable across the board. You can get specific on certain industries, but it's in a lot of ways, I look at that still as the same as the business foundation. There's the same foundation layer kind of thing under every business. You've got to deal with people, you got to deal with payroll, you got to deal with vendors, things like that just are going to happen across the board no matter what.
Everybody needs to print. Everybody needs to run payroll. Everybody needs to use email. You're exactly right. And I think that, for the majority of our customers, they don't have tons and tons of specialized software. I mean, with the cloud these days, it's almost all cloud-based. And nobody's really using these, large, expensive, laborious CRMs anymore, SAP and things like that. Everything's in the cloud. So it's kind of I feel like that's taken a lot of pressure off of us as the smaller, more generalized MSPs to not have to be as specific in those ways.
Yeah, no, I can see that for sure. So talk to us a little bit. Obviously, your background, I was actually just pulled up your profile again, looking at it. We're both actually out of North Texas, University of North Texas in Denton. I didn't realize that one. But so talk to me a little bit about that transition kind of thing from single IT, single technician, single computer science, or you said information technology, but still that field to now being business owner. What does that look like for your day-to-day realm, or just what kind of transitions have you seen there in trying to make that change?
Yeah, so it's definitely a change. It's definitely not easy. I'm trying to remember the book. Gosh, it's a book that a mentor of mine shared with me, and it talks in going from being the technician or being the person who does the job on a day-to-day basis and transitioning into the business owner and what that looks like and why people do that, and then what people actually step back and realize, oh my gosh, this is not anything like what A, I wanted, or B, it wasn't easy. Because I feel like there's a presumption that, if somebody owns a business, if they're a business owner, they are A, wealthy, and B, it is a dream. And both of those things can be completely wrong. They can be right too, but I don't think a lot of times people actually get into and know how hard it actually is to make that transition that you're talking about, and then to keep with it with consistency over time to then hit that end goal where people are seeing, and it's just not easy. It takes hard work, days after days after days.
It's definitely a transition for sure. And to me, that's what I see a lot of times with the entrepreneurial type, is that you've got a background in technology, somebody's got a background in medical or a background in finance or whatever, and they're really going out to solve an issue, or they've got an idea that they want to go bring out, and now it turns into a business. It's like they don't go out necessarily to say, hey, we're just going to go build a new business and then figure out what this business is going to do, kind of a thing. Very, very few of us ever go in saying, hey, yeah, we're just going to go be business owners. We want to aspire to be a CEO, kind of a thing here. We've got another passion typically. But to your point, yeah, it's like, okay, all of a sudden you can't be the frontline IT technician. You can't be setting up the servers. You can't be doing that stuff. It's like there's another 14, 15 people here now, depending upon me, got to step up and be at a different level kind of a thing. And that is a definite difficult transition potentially, but yeah, it can be a for sure different world for you in terms of your day-to-day outlook, day-to-day operations there.
I think, Jeff, the biggest thing that we are dealing with right now in reference to, transitioning from, I'm in my friend's spare bedroom, and I'm getting phone calls, I'm creating tickets, I'm remoting into computers, I'm fixing problems, I'm setting up servers, etc. The biggest transition from that to today, where I've got, 13, 14 staff members, is delegation and communication. Those right there are the biggest absolutes, because I am so used to just being the guy. And, it's not Dylan Todd it's not Dylan Todd IT services, it's Wellteck IT. And, I feel like we've done well in disassociating between the two. We do what are called TBR meetings, or technology business review meetings, which means that based on the size of the customer, we have a reoccurring meeting with them under the terms of our MSA. And we'll go meet with them as often as quarterly or as minimally as once a year. And doing that, we get a good feel of where the customer is, where their business is, prior projects that we've handled for them, future projects that, maybe they're opening a new branch in a new city, something like that. And I used to do all of those. It just goes further and further and further back to where I did literally everything. And now these days, that's not the case. And I'm having, it's hard to keep in mind that I have people in my staff who are literally here for those things. And for me, and it's not my job anymore. And I need to, when I have somebody pop in my office and ask me a question and I say, oh yeah, sure, go do that. And then, I get a Teams message from another colleague that says, hey, did you tell this person to go do this? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And I didn't bring it. I didn't call you. I didn't communicate at all. Cause it's just what I'm used to. It really is. It's such a hard thing to break. And I think anybody watching this will maybe, understand that and know like, hey, I might have 13 or 14 employees. We might be doing, $3 million a year in revenue, but those struggles are still real struggles that I'm still dealing with today.
Yeah, no, it really is. And that's one of the biggest issues or changes I see moving from even still that 5 to 6 kind of player. Because at that point, you're still one team. Everybody's still meeting together in the same room, doing things. Once you start crossing that 7, 8, 9, 10 plus, you got to start putting some more structure, some organization, potentially even some layers kind of thing in place there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, all of a sudden, like you're saying, it's not just, hey, everybody drop in on Dylan's office here and asking questions. All of a sudden, hey, we've actually got some structure on this, some processes, some procedures, things like that. Just if nothing else, for your time, for your sanity, you can't have people dropping in every day, every minute kind of a thing there. Hey, can you take care of this? Can you do this? Like, no, it needs to be your job. You need to be empowered to do that. And yeah, that's one of the biggest changes that honestly, I would say, we were talking about my MSP years back. That was one of the things we had the hardest time with, of saying, okay, how do you grow beyond that 5 to 6 players to something bigger? Because it's no longer just this complete ad hoc mesh of people. Now you're actually having to build teams and build structure kind of a thing. And that's a challenge there for a lot of entrepreneurs, really moving to that next level. Because at that point, you're going beyond the little boutique IT firm that there's a million of them out there, because they're all 2 or 3 guys that got together, or girls that says, hey, we know technology, we know patches, we know whatever kind of stuff. We can go form our own company, versus you get to the ones like you're talking about 14, 15 players at that point. Now you're actually getting technically a quote real firm that, okay, we've actually got some capabilities here. And hopefully when you're looking at it from people's standpoint, you're looking at hiring people that are honestly smarter than you are in certain areas, kind of a thing, to where it's not, like you said, it's not the Dylan show anymore. It's the overall company.
That's right. I think I've even said that, Jeff. I think I've even said, I don't want to be the smartest person here. Not that I need to be the dumbest person here either, but but I've said that before to my staff, that I am relying on everybody here to do their individual part for us to grow as a business. We're not doing this on me anymore, and we're not doing this on 2 or 3 of us anymore. Each person has that aspect that they're responsible for on a day-to-day basis. And when we all can, pretty well stay in our lane and communicate, I think that's how we can grow and be successful.
So what have you done to help facilitate some of that delegation, some of that communication there? Or is that still an ongoing learning process?
Oh, it is. It is an ongoing learning process. I don't know if you've ever watched tons and tons of Seinfeld, but in Seinfeld, I think it's during Christmas, they talk about the listing of grievances for Festivus.
Yeah.
And so I created a biweekly meeting for my main 2 managers, my service manager and my operations manager. And our meeting is called the listing of grievances. And basically it's a time for us to sort of compile anything and everything that's going on, on a biweekly kind of, every 2 weeks, and come together and talk about particular things that need to be dealt with. Because I kind of figured out that the way I communicate is, I'll kind of throw things here and there every once in a while. I'll say things in passing, but, and for me too, this is the case, that if I'm not maybe met with and like sat down and communicated with in a more official way, then I may not be totally listening, and I may not be totally engaged in hearing what the person's saying and then trying to put some action behind a resolution. And so we've started doing that. We just started that actually not that long ago, but we just started doing that. And I think that that's going to be really helpful to have that consistent meeting with both of my two managers, to where anything and everything gets aired in that hour-long meeting that we have every 2 weeks. And then we can come up with resolutions, or if I need to ask questions, I just had one with my service manager yesterday. I asked a bunch of questions. And so in 2 weeks from yesterday, we'll come back to the table. He'll give me all the answers, and then we'll kind of dialogue on what we want to do next. And so we do that also with other people in the business. We've tried to start getting on every 6 months doing reviews with employees on a one-on-one basis, so that everybody feels like there's somewhat constant communication there on a one-to-one basis with leadership. And then we do what's called a daily huddle every morning, which is the entire company in the lobby of our office. And we go through what's called our huddle report. It talks about different metrics from the prior day. How much time was put in across, each employee that day, how much time was wasted, or not accounted for, should I say?
Yeah.
How much time was put in across, all these customers, and how much, what tickets were open that weren't closed yesterday, how much of them are stuck, if you will. We just kind of go through that report, 15-minute meeting. It's supposed to be rapid fire. And we basically can probably come away with that meeting knowing a little bit more targetedly that what we should be doing that day. So multiple ways we're trying to do that in multiple areas.
I like it in the 2-week meetings of saying, okay, yes, this is a planned structure, because you're putting structure together to say, okay, this is when we're going to talk about the issues. Don't sit here and rapid fire me every day kind of a thing, stick your head in and distract kind of a thing. Because like you said, nobody stays on track there, but especially the huddles. I've seen that and worked with a number of companies on that it just gives you, if nothing else, that sense that, okay, person A now knows what person B is working on. So it's just, again, a little bit more knowledge there, that even though they may not be involved, if they do come up with something, or they do, hey, I've seen this issue before kind of a thing, it just gives you that better communication overall, just better feel of the entire company. So I like that concept, and like that you're playing with that one.
Yeah, for sure. It's worked well for us. I think we've been doing it now, maybe 2 years or so, maybe a little bit longer. And so I think it makes a tremendous difference, Jeff, just having that additional 15 minutes all together each morning. I mean, sometimes it's dull and drab and just there's not a whole lot going on, and we just go to the report and then that's it. But sometimes, like, it's fun, we're joking around. Sometimes I try to play, I've got a Sonos speaker in the lobby, and I try to play music for everybody to walk into, like the Macarena or something like that, something dumb and fun. And we also go through a list of fundamentals as well that I kind of want to ingrain in as the company culture. And so I'll send an email out each Sunday about one of those fundamentals and sort of a application about it. And then I'll try to talk about it throughout the week in the huddle meeting, and then throw gift cards at people during the huddle meeting if they're, talking, because in the tech field, we know a lot of people are not real talkative. They're not real social. And we've got some really social people too for being an IT company, but we also have some quieter ones. And so it's always try to want to reward that when, they pipe up and they give a good example. And so I'll throw a Starbucks gift card or a Chick-fil-A gift card or something like that at them. And I think that just helps make it a little funner, good way to start the day.
No, I like that. It's the overall culture kind of a thing. You're trying to get them involved and say, hey, everybody's part of this kind of a thing. So that's cool that you're looking at doing that kind of a thing, because it really does, specific to the IT, like you're saying, there's a lot that would just as soon hide in their dark little cubicle and be just fine right there.
That's right.
So we talked about this a little bit before we got on. When you're looking at planning or looking at New Year's kind of a thing, what are you doing from a goal setting perspective, or how are you approaching, for that matter, 2021 coming into this right now?
Sure. So, 2020 was obviously not the year that we wanted it to be. But I think I'm speaking for not just IT, but any business owner, in the fact that 2020 just did not, if just like 2021, I'm going in with lofty goals. I did that in 2020. And we had to adjust those goals in the first quarter pretty quickly. And so, we to give you a little bit of background, we did an acquisition of another company from Odessa that came about, in the very end of 2018, and we actually hit the ground running in 2019. We brought over all their employees and all their accounts, and we grew 151% that year.
Nice.
And it was a huge growth. And so coming off of a huge amount of growth like that, we're thinking, man, 2020 is just going to rock. We are going to get this. And, we were actually, by the end of 2020, I ran the numbers the other day, and we were actually down 50%. So, like I said, it didn't quite happen the way that I wanted to, but, I'm trying to also be realistic with my goals. So I like I mentioned to you previously, I take a retreat each year with a group of friends of mine who also own businesses. And we sort of just go around the room and we talk about goals. We talk about what prior years looked like, what we want the next year to look like. And we just kind of plan. And so we try to do that in the first part of January every year. It's probably been the 5th year, 6th year that I've done it. And the company's only 7 years old. So I've done it for most of what I've had the company. And so I've got a whole bunch. I've got 11 goals that I'd like to hit this year. Some of them are short-term goals, like by the end of, January, February. Other ones are long-term goals. I'd like to hit this metric by, the end of the year. And so, I basically bring those up to the group, and they try to poke holes in them, and they say, well, how are you going to get there? And what's measurable that you can do? If it's by the end of the year goal, what can you do by the end of the first quarter to actually get you there? And those are things all the way from, talking about potentially raising prices on a very minimal scale, since we haven't ever done that, on our service agreements ever. And we've only raised our our time and materials prices one time in the history of the company. So just things like that, all the way to, trying to bring up net profit, trying to bring up gross profit, just trying to bring up sheer revenue. So got lots on that.
Yeah.
You're off on it.
It's still good in that it's effectively what you're looking at or talking about is a board of directors kind of group that, like you said, you can go out there and say, because a lot of times we'll find that being at the top of a business can be kind of a lonely place. It's like, okay, who do I go talk to? Who do I bounce stuff off of? And a lot of times you'll end up with that tunnel vision to say, okay, this is the way we do things. And when you've got that outside group, especially that they're outside group of business owners, they can either question you or push you, or even just provide additional insights to say, well, hey, what about this, or try this kind of a thing. So that's cool that you've got that group. I wish more entrepreneurs kind of had that group or stepped out looking for that group, because that's, to me, having that kind of peer leadership is really one of the keys to being able to successfully grow at that point.
Yeah. And too, Jeff, I would be very, I'd feel terrible if I didn't mention this one particular person. His name is Dan Martin, and he used to own half of an MSP in Florida. And he is like our MSP mentor, if you will. We have a weekly call with him. He owns another business called Connect Smart, where he does sort of dashboards and reports for MSPs. You can plug all of your, we use ConnectWise, for instance, for our CRM. So it's connected directly to ConnectWise, and it just pulls tons and tons of metrics and puts them in a displayable form. So I have to rep him, because A, those are great resources for us, but B, he has made a monumental difference in the business from a structure standpoint, because like you said, me coming into this, I'm coming in, I know how to do the work. I know how to operate the CRM and send the invoices, but like you said, that can get you to that 3, 4, 5 people kind of company. But I mean, you really have to restructure and refocus and reorganize everything when you want to get to the 10, 12, 15, 20, so on and so on. And he has helped us do that.
Yeah. And really, even more than that, having that mentor, kind of somebody that's been down that path, been down that road, that can guide right there. Because again, it's a lot of times we're going out and trying to solve things ourselves, figure things brand new. It's like somebody else has already invented that wheel. You don't need to go reinvent it here. If you can find that right partner, it's like, even as a business coach, I've got another coach myself that helps with some of those decisions, helps with some of those guidance. And hey, seen this before with other companies, you ought to try this kind of a thing. So it's really, there's having an outside mentor, having an outside coach, something like that, yeah, you can figure it out yourself, but you're most likely going to figure it out with a whole lot less pain and a lot less cost, et cetera, if you
Yeah.
got somebody else helping guide the way a little bit.
And time.
Yeah.
Time is the killer because we have a goal to make money every day, but we cannot get our time back. And there are multiple things that I think that if I would have run by him or maybe listened a little closer, maybe we would not have spent the time and then also the money and everything, the resources, everything else that goes along with that on particular things. So I think it's hugely important to have exactly what you were talking about, that personal mentor, coach, whatever you want to call it.
So talking about goals and future plans, what does the next 5 years or so hold for your MSP, for your business life, et cetera, looking out a little bit longer distance than just revenues and profits for this year?
Yeah. So I feel like with the way that we've grown up into this point, the way that we took on that 150% growth was we definitely took care of all the customers, and I felt like we took care of our employees as well. But it was also a little, how do you say, crazy. It was a little crazy. It was vastly more disorganized than I'd like to, admit. But I'd like to do another acquisition like that. I'd like to do another merger. I'd like to do another, investment maybe or something like that into another company, because I see what that has done for us. And I think the situation we were in previously also was a little bit of an Easter egg. But I think that, plugging our money into another company or buying out another company, something like that would definitely be in that plan. I've got that in my goal list this year, but it's sort of at any point in time this year, I'm just kind of staying on the prowl. And so I want to do something that makes sense, but it definitely helped propel us. Maybe not something quite as disorganized though, as what we did previously, because it was a lot for about the quarter. It was a lot. So there's definitely that. And I think just growing sustainably. I mean, for instance, something like you said, not necessarily just this year, but I think this can be for this year and for future years. So for this year, for the first point in time, we actually have an outside salesperson. We have never had, other than myself, we have never had a truly dedicated outside sales representative, and we do today. And so there was a lot that went along with that in reference to training, in reference to marketing, in reference to things like lead lists and advertising and things like that. And I had never really done any of that stuff before, but I've got a partner that we're doing that through, and I feel like we're going to see some success because the person that we have involved in that is a go-getter. And I'd like to see maybe a team of those individuals, in the future, possibly with a sales manager, and that's sort of just its own department altogether. We're farming out marketing right now, and that's not something we've really done a ton in. I've kind of feel like I've been burned previously with other agencies, and just makes me kind of iffy on wanting to spend money in that area. But I was, I have confidence in the presentation that I was given, and so in the company that's doing it. And so we're doing that this year. We're taking a structured approach. We're going to redo our website. So I think there's some things that we're doing this year that may show, success or not in how we want to operate over the next 3 to 5 years.
Makes sense. Yeah. Well, you got to lay the groundwork, and then it's walk before you run kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I always kind of like wrapping up with one question to say, looking back to say, whatever, 4 or 5 years ago now, if you had just known one tip, one strategy, hey, if I just known this, then this process might have been smoother, easier, et cetera. Almost like we were talking kind of lessons learned, that the second acquisition hopefully will be much smoother than the first, just because you've already been down that path. But what's something that, hey, just from a growing and building a business here, that comes to mind that says, hey, if I had just known this or done this earlier, things might have been a little bit easier. Anything come to mind?
Oh, yeah, but I'll try to be quick. So I remember the first year that I went on that retreat that I was talking about. And one of the guys that I went on that retreat with, who's still going with us to this day, he owns a glass cleaning company. And there is an individual in that in that sphere of business in the world that talks about systems and processes and things like that. And he was really, really into that. He had done tons and tons of research and talking about that and telling us, the other two people in the group, because there was just 3 people at that point in time, about, why we needed to do systems, why we needed to have processes, why we needed to have it written down. And me coming, and looking at that, I'm thinking, why? It's just me. Like, I don't need that. It's all in here. And why do I need to spend my very valuable time right now, because I'm trying to run the business basically by myself? Why do I need to spend, days and days and days writing down all of these systems? Oh my gosh, what a mistake that is. Well, and I say that with a grain of salt too, because yes, it was a mistake for me not to write down systems, because the thing he said was, Dylan, you need to operate bigger than you are, because truly that's what we want to build into, is we want to constantly operate with more structure and be and act bigger than we are, so that we have all of that stuff working for us instead of working against us. And so I think if I would have done that, I think I would have been better off probably in the beginning. But also at the same time too, I'm looking at this now from starting the 7th year's perspective, and those would have needed to be rewritten by now, if not once, maybe twice. Yeah. Just based on, the growing part of the business, the way we changed our approach, because we started just as break fix. Like, people call me, I give them a solution, I send them a bill, tomato, it's done. Versus today, where we're slowly weaning off that break fix model, and we're trying to do it in a sensitive sort of, not just throw down the gauntlet kind of way, but we're definitely not engaging new customers with break fix. We're only doing managed service agreements. And so, I think I could talk to you for the next 30 minutes about things that I wish I would do differently, maybe. But I think we all do things for a certain way to learn as well. So I'm appreciative of the learning opportunities that I've gotten as well.
Yeah, there's definitely that. But no, speaking to the process, that's one that a lot of people look at, especially unless you're the detailed process oriented, that you like writing those down kind of a thing. Everybody looks at that side. I don't want to waste my time doing that. But like you said, especially getting to the point of scaling and growing, if it's in your head, then your team doesn't know how to do it. They've got to continually rely on you versus, okay, if it's written down, yeah, it's going to evolve over time as the business does. But still, that's really the biggest key on being able to successfully scale and say, okay, I can replicate myself now, because effectively I'm replicating the knowledge, the expertise kind of a thing through these processes. So that's one that it's a struggle for a lot of people, but it is so key when it comes time to actually grow out the business beyond yourself or beyond that initial core team. That, okay, you got to be able to hire on salesperson number 2 or server technician number 2 kind of a thing. And as small business, as a big enterprise, you can always go hire somebody and say, hey, yeah, sit next to them and shadow them for the next 6 months. We don't have that luxury in a small business. We can't afford somebody not to be productive kind of a thing, making money here almost day one kind of a thing. You got to be able to sit down. Okay, here's your processes. Here's exactly how you handle this. Now ask questions if you need to, but you're ready to hit the ground running kind of a thing here from a small business standpoint.
That would be great. I wish that we had more of that, Jeff. Unfortunately, I think we get a little bit of that, but I think also we do have people shadow for probably a few weeks. And they're not just totally shadowing. We're also kind of trying to throw stuff at them here and there to see how they handle it. But I wish that there were definitely more of those people who were, ready to roll essentially right when they come in. So that would definitely be great to have in the future.
Yeah, well, that's really, like I said, that's one of the big keys. So I appreciate the time. Obviously, we're actually running a little bit long here, but I appreciate the time with you here. If people are more interested in learning more about you or about the company, where can they go find some more information?
Yeah, for sure. So our website is wellteck.com, and that's spelled WELLTECK.com. You can go there. All of our contact information is there. You can also find us all on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely have all that in the show notes right here below, so they can click on it and jump right over to you. So awesome. I appreciate the time, taking out a little bit of your busy schedule, but appreciate the time and the insight today.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Building to Scale podcast. If you would like to share your entrepreneurial business growth story, please visit buildingtoscale.com/guest. If you got something out of this interview, would you do both us and our guest a favor and share it on your social media accounts? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your player so that you don't miss any future episodes, and make sure to reach out to Jeff Chastain on any of the major social media networks, or check us out at admentis.com.